Hi, my name is Hardy, and I am a product marketing manager here at RingCentral. And we just went over Ascend to the Cloud with hybrid deployments at Enterprise Connect 2022. And so I want to bring you a recap here of what we talked about. So as a roadmap, why cloud and why now? In particular to voice, telephony, and communications in the cloud. And number two, what are hybrid deployments and how can it help us as we think about bringing that voice into the cloud? And third, what are the steps in order we can take as enterprises to move towards that direction? Because actually it's pretty challenging to make that jump all at once. But what are steps we can take by moving towards hybrid to enable that to happen? To begin with, as a quick introductory, we all know that our business tools are all moving toward the clouds or already are in the cloud, meaning that they were born in the cloud. And so many of these names, big names, right? Workday, Zoho, Zendesk, Google, Microsoft, they've been in the cloud for many, many years. And the reality is these cloud vendors or platforms are what our enterprises and our businesses, employees and workforce use every day. And it enables us to work in a much more efficient and manageable manner and across multiple offices around the world. And not only that, it enables the data to speak to each other in a much more seamless way. And that makes us more efficient, right? And more productive. Because when we have data from one solution talking to another solution, that data becomes more usable, right? And it gives us a better view of the reality that's going on. And I think that's why RingCentral, when we think about business communications, it's not just uniting the type of communication tools in terms of UCaaS, like voice, video, messaging, collaboration. No, it's more than that. It's doing that plus integrating all these other business tools that you see and putting it all together, bringing our communications with our other business tools and workflows. So that it not just removes friction and creates more productive, effortless environments for our workforces, but it also enables greater data to flow. And you know, I think in a world today, we hear a lot about the composable, world that we live in, right? And I think this is a lot of what we're talking about. RingCentral can connect with a lot of these business tools and make our workforce smarter and more efficient. So that was kind of today, right? We're living in an environment, living in the cloud, right? And we know that our communication tools also need to move to the cloud to make it more usable. But I think one of the challenges, especially for enterprises, is there's a lot of complexity in our world, the enterprise world. To begin with, we've always lived in a multi-site environment, and that introduces a lot of complexity on its own because of the nuanced states of each site, whether it's from our organizations or business units or special cases and tools they might use across those different sites. Added to that is, like mentioned, the last 10 years or so, cloud applications, right? All our business tools are moving to the cloud. And that's an additional layer of complexity as well of who gets access and how do we move the data back and forth, and et cetera. And thirdly, there's hybrid, right? Hybrid workforces are this term that we've been hearing a lot and more these days due to COVID pushing us to a new working framework for our workforce. And so all these three things, right? Lots of complexity for the IT manager and our IT orgs. How do we wrestle with this increased complexity? I think this is why we need systems and tools that can help simplify. And that's what RingCentral we're trying to do by bringing our voice, video, our UCaaS, all that together with the business tools that you use every day. We're all familiar with models of hybrid deployments, right? On-prem, public cloud, hosted cloud, private cloud, and a lot of that has been spoken about for UCaaS as well throughout the number of years. And maybe you have a mixture of these different things because for whatever reason, right, security reasons, control reasons, and different use cases. And the reality is, if indeed all our business tools are moving toward a cloud, or we're living in some kind of hybrid environment with those business tools, how much more so do we need to have our communication tools also move in that direction as well? And start thinking about it, right? You can't just live on-prem alone. Perhaps for some reasons, some of it needs to, but I think ideally what we want to do is move toward the cloud so that that data flow can move and be more usable and communicate with one another and help our workforces be more productive. So today, we're going to zoom in a little bit on where is voice leading us, right? We went from wired phones to like mobile phones to today we have LTE, and I mean, innovation is just lightning speed, right? And when we talk about UCaaS, it's bridging our voice with the rest of the tools that communication we use, like SMS, fax, video, messaging, collaboration, file sharing, as well as platform integrations with all the business tools that we're already doing. And so hybrid deployments in many ways for communications means taking our on-premise, right, voice solutions that we've been using for the last 20 years or so, right, and connecting it to the cloud and the other communication tools and our business tools. All right, it's a stepping stone towards complete cloud, but it's an important stepping stone. At RingCentral, we think about it kind of like a transitioning maturity model, right, for our enterprises. You may be living on-prem right now, or historically you have, and you want to get into UCaaS, right? You want to move to a environment where you're fully deployed in the cloud and everything's connected and it's robust and it's a great solution for your global working force, right? So the two steps potentially you could think about is maybe, you know, a hybrid deployment means you're moving some of your sites, right, to cloud, and some of them they're remaining on-prem. Maybe you're taking a outside in kind of approach, right? You're dipping into the cloud, and some of your edge sites, you're going to start with those. But to make it usable, you need that on-premise sites that, you know, the main ship that's still on-prem, right, to be able to interconnect with the cloud, right, the testing sites that you're already doing, right? And then maybe you're moving slowly all the way until you've converted all your sites to the cloud, or the majority to the cloud, right? And that may be your first step, right? A cloud interconnect between on-prem and the cloud. The next step may be to, once you're getting further and further along, to consolidate into a single PSTN provider, right? And that, you know, there are definitely cost savings in terms of your phone bill and your calling, but also it simplifies complexity as well. And maybe RingCentral might be that single PSTN provider across all locations and endpoints, both cloud and on-prem. And then lastly, maybe you finally moved to the cloud, and that's where we want to get to. But yeah, every single enterprise, we're not going to one day instantly switch over to the cloud. I think many do, but I think to take a you know, change management approach, all right, it takes steps, and you know, we just got to frame out what those steps look like. And this is just one maturity model that you could look at, and many of our customers are thinking about this particular model as well. I think the question to ask you is, or ask ourselves is, number one, what's the ideal path to the cloud? You know, for your enterprise, my enterprise, right? What is the ideal path? We all know that voice and all our business tools are moving and have already moved to the cloud. And if we haven't taken steps to get there yet, what are the steps that we need to take? What's our ideal path, right? Because not every enterprise is the same, and not every single path to the cloud is the same either. But it's a discussion that we have to begin to get internally, and also talk to our trusted partners and cloud solution providers, and figure out what is the best way for us, right? Maybe it's the next 2 years, 5 years or so, but we have to begin that discussion today in order to future-proof our businesses for what's coming in the future as well, because we all know that the future is eventually going to become cloud as well, right? As we see with all our other business tools. Number two, what are the challenges that we foresee encountering if we were to take these steps? there's of course going to be challenges and different roadblocks or pitfalls because our enterprises are facing a lot of complexity today, and each enterprise is different depending on our use cases, our different sites and locations and nuances and so forth. And so we'll want to identify those and help that dictate the path that we want to take. Lastly, I want to bring you this last thought, which is there are many use cases or cases for hybrid deployments, right? Definitely a controlled migration is one of them, right? We want to minimize the risk, and maybe we want to do some testing by dipping into the cloud, or maybe we want to validate this approach with a pilot program. There are many use cases in which IT department may decide to do a hybrid deployment, and I think that's all valid, right? And you really have to decide what's best for your organization. Other times it's business case driven, right? There are certain business cases that require us to remain on-prem for certain locations and certain places, right? Maybe it's the complex contact center requirements, or maybe it's for compliancy or regulatory reasons. But that shouldn't prevent us from moving other sites in our enterprise to the cloud, because for those other sites, you want them to experience the goodness of having an interconnected, holistic business tool and communication tools working environment. Lastly, I think edge case or workforce is really important too, right? Edge cases, what we're talking about is perhaps you have some certain contracts that expire at a certain point in time, or maintenance or carrier contracts. Maybe certain sites have reliability or latency issues, or maybe the admin requires fuller control over their environments or infrastructure due to company rules, right? And that's okay, but like said, right? Don't let that hinder at least starting that process to mature into the cloud, right? You can start with certain sites first, right? And a hybrid approach is really good for that. And lastly, I think the workforce driven COVID, I think, is the biggest indicator, right? Like, man, we're moving toward a new working environment, a way to work. And if we want our workforce and tomorrow's workforce to be able to work in an efficient manner and productive manner, especially with communication tools, and if it's the bedrock of our organizations, then we need to begin that transition today. And why not hybrid as an approach to test and take a step-by-step approach toward getting there. So that's all I have for you. And hopefully this talk was insightful, and it conjures up some thoughts of how and what we need to start thinking about today in order to help our businesses advance toward the future. And if you have any questions at all, please reach out to RingCentral, and we definitely are happy to talk, or even your trusted partners that you've been working with for so many years, because I think this is one of the most important components of our businesses and enterprises, and we definitely want to start thinking about those and helping you to do so. Thank you.